All right, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us. We've heard Albertans' concerns about auto insurance, and I'm here with Minister of Finance, Nate Horner, and Minister of Affordability and Utilities, Nathan Neudorf, to announce that relief is on the way through a new Made in Alberta system. Complaints and concerns about auto insurance have unfortunately been around for a long time, and we've been working hard to address those concerns for everyone involved. The simple fact is that Albertans need a better system that will reduce the cost of insurance for drivers while providing the timely supports they'll need should they get into a collision. As our system currently operates, an Albertan who has the misfortune to be involved in a collision tends to be able to count on two truths. First, the process for compensation and treatment is long and unwieldy. Second, the treatment and compensation they receive often runs out before they're fully recovered. The system isn't working. So today we're pleased to announce that our reforms to the insurance system will bring us from a court-focused system to a care-first system. Minister Horner will provide details on what that means in just a few moments. In a nutshell, under the new system, if someone is injured in a collision, they'll get the necessary care and benefits, whether they're at fault or not, without the need to litigate. No more costly legal battles, no more drawn-out waits for care. Instead, Albertans who suffer serious injuries will be able to rely on treatment until they are recovered. Albertans who suffer catastrophic, life-changing injuries would be able to rely on treatment and care for the rest of their lives. This is a care-focused system. Instead of forcing people through complex legal processes in order to get the treatment that they need, the system default will be that those injured in collisions get the care they need to recover. You could call it better, faster service. And these better, faster services would be delivered at a savings of up to $400 per year on insurance premiums. It's no secret that the high cost of auto insurance is top of mind for Albertans. Many are struggling to afford insurance rates that seem to keep on rising. And the high and unexpected costs associated with getting into a collision could spell disaster for a family's finances. At the same time, claims and operating costs are also rising rapidly for the insurance industry. Both sides have been locked in a struggle to balance the need to cover costs with the ability to pay for them. It has been critical that we strike the right balance in making reforms to Alberta's auto insurance system. Over time, our new system will mean that the costs saved by not going to court will lead to lower, more stable, and more predictable rates for Albertans. I do need to be clear, the work is not yet fully done. These are major systemic changes to the way auto insurance is delivered in our province, and we still have legislative work that needs to be done in addition to giving industry the time to align their products and processes with the new rules. It's going to take a little bit of time for insurers to make the necessary changes to put a new system in place, so we're expecting the system to launch in January of 2027. And even then, it will also take some time for the changes to make an impact. I know Albertans are impatient for lower auto insurance rates. That's why we have also some short-term measures in place to limit rate increases and to protect Alberta drivers from rate spikes until the new system is ready to go. One such short-term measure is the good driver rate cap, which limits increases for Albertans with good driving records to inflation. And in our new system, I want to stress that at-fault drivers will continue to pay higher premiums than those with clean records. Reforming the province's auto insurance system isn't a quick fix. It's a long-term solution that will bring those rates down for current and future Albertans. And it's a long-term solution that will put the well-being and care of Albertans at the center. Because if you've been in a collision, the first priority is you and making sure that you can access the care you need when you need it. So our new care-focused system will put the focus where it needs to be. And when the system is fully in place, Alberta drivers will be able to rely on lower rates and a quicker, more effective support if they have been injured in a collision. Now I would like to invite Minister Nate Horner to the podium to share more details about the new approach.
Sure. Thank you, Premier. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm sure you're all eager to hear how we're going to make auto insurance more affordable, stable, and beneficial for Albertans. As Premier mentioned, Alberta currently operates a court-based auto insurance system. This allows, and some might even say encourages, court proceedings and costly legal battles. We know some Albertans feel the court system is necessary to access the care and treatment they need to recover from their injuries. But legal costs have significantly driven up the cost that all Albertans pay for their auto insurance premiums. For many of us, whether we are commuting to work, getting our kids to school, or making weekend trips to visit family, we rely on our vehicles to get things done every day. But the price of auto insurance has added to the affordability crisis and makes it harder for families to manage their household costs due to simply getting where they need to go. So earlier this year, we heard from over 16,000 people. Moving to a Care First model aligns with what we heard from Albertans. 95% of those who responded to the survey support that bad drivers should pay more for their auto insurance. 92% said that they should receive as much support and time as they need to recover if they are injured. And 80% agreed they want to pay the lowest possible cost for their insurance. And while 73% believe it is important to retain the ability to sue an at-fault driver, 60% said that they would not need the right to sue if the benefits provided by their insurance company supported their needs. The message was clear. Albertans want an auto insurance system that is affordable, fair, and focused on delivering care to those injured in collisions. We've listened, and now we're taking action. Starting January 1st, 2027, Alberta will be moving to a Care First auto insurance system. Under this model, Albertans injured in a collision will have access to significantly improved medical, rehabilitation, and income support benefits, helping them focus on recovery instead of navigating long and costly legal battles. The last thing Albertans need is the added stress of worrying about their recovery from an injury they may suffer in a collision. The Care First approach will ease that burden. In addition to the improved benefits, the Care First system will offer a one-time permanent impairment benefit for those with more serious, lasting injuries, similar to pain and suffering settlements in our current system, with additional support if their costs exceed their payment. This system shifts the focus away from court battles and costly litigation to providing care and support for everyone injured in a collision, ensuring that they get the help that they need when they need it most. Alberta will now have the best benefits schedule of any system in Canada for drivers that are facing a need for medical care and rehabilitation following a collision. Our primary focus was getting Albertans the best benefits in Canada while lowering rate costs, and this system will accomplish those goals. As you can see behind me, there are significantly broader treatment and medical rehabilitation benefits under a Care First model with no time limit. Other additional supports such as return to work, rehabilitation, caregiver, and personal care supports would also be available to this person under a Care First system. Under the current court system, drivers who have suffered a catastrophic injury would get pain and suffering damages as determined by the courts, loss of earning capacity plus out-of-pocket expenses, less 30% plus disbursements to lawyers. This means victims would only get 50 to 65% of the benefits they're entitled to under the court system. Under the Care First system, they may be entitled to a permanent impairment lump sum, which they would have had to sue for in the current model, waiting years for settlement. The amount of the benefit would be based upon the severity of the injury. Out-of-pocket expenses could still be claimed. They would have access to significantly broader treatment and medical rehabilitation benefits under a Care First model with no time limit, rather than time-limited treatment under the current model. Additional supports such as home or vehicle modification, caregiver, and personal care supports would also be available to them for the rest of their life under a Care First system. To be clear, Albertans will have the option to sue at-fault drivers convicted of a major driving offense or for out-of-pocket expenses that go beyond coverage provided by the insurance policy. Some will categorize this Care First system as no fault. I really think that's a misleading label and just not right. Under this model, fault still matters. Bad drivers will continue to pay more in premiums. Drivers will be held accountable for their actions. At the same time, it is a system that prioritizes care for injured Albertans regardless of fault. And for the vast majority of Albertans who simply need insurance to drive on Alberta's roads, the Care First model will help their pocketbook. Again, it's important for Albertans to understand that the reforms we are announcing do not focus on taking away the right to sue. Rather, we are significantly reducing the need to sue. When we started looking at reforming Alberta's auto insurance system, all our stakeholders agreed to the guiding principles of accountability, affordability, care-focused, simplicity, and stability. This new model meets these principles. As Premier mentioned earlier, Alberta will be the first province in Canada to deliver a care-first model through private insurers. Based on an independent economic analysis, a public insurer would cost Alberta taxpayers nearly $3 billion to set up and even more to operate annually. More importantly, it would mean a substantial loss of good-paying private sector jobs across the province, potentially as many as 5,000, particularly in rural and smaller communities. Until the Care First system can be implemented, we must take steps to address the resilience of our insurance system and the availability of insurance for Albertans. The Superintendent of Insurance's latest report shows that auto insurers saw their total operating profits drop significantly in 2023 due to rising claims costs and other pressures. And this trend is expected to have worsened in 2024. People may think we shouldn't be worried about a private company's profits. What we are thinking about, though, is making sure Alberta has a competitive environment in which insurance companies want to operate in. This will ensure choice for Albertans. As we transition to a Care First model in the longer term, we need to take action in the shorter term. A rate cap helps keep auto insurance affordable, but limits an insurer's ability to keep pace with claims obligations as costs continue to rise. Starting this coming January, rate increase applications filed with the Automobile Insurance Rate Board will be capped at 5% each year for good drivers. There will also be an additional 2.5% increase allowed to account for natural disaster-related costs such as the Jasper wildfire and Calgary hailstorm we experienced this summer. Together, this means that good drivers will see their rate increases capped at 7.5% each year. We know an increase in the rate cap is not ideal for Albertans. This wasn't something we wanted to do. It's clear that auto insurance companies are not blameless in this situation either, but the current situation is not about profitability, it's about viability. Many companies are losing millions under the current cap system, and we have chosen to limit the cap as much as possible in the face of escalating costs. 2 insurers have already decided to leave our market, and others could potentially follow without some adjustment to the cap. It is important to address affordability for Albertans and ensure they have a viable and competitive insurance market. This will give them options for where they want to purchase the coverage they need. This adjustment to the rate cap finds a balance that addresses both affordability for Albertans and viability for Alberta's auto insurers until the Care First model can be implemented. The system announced today is a significant change, but necessary for Alberta drivers and insurers to experience real relief. Our goal is clear: to bring stability, affordability, and meaningful support to Albertans. By reducing the need for costly litigation and focusing on care, we are creating a system that better serves the needs of Albertans and supports them when it matters most. Thank you. I'll now turn it over to Minister Neudorf.
Thanks, Minister Horner. Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here today with Minister Horner and the Premier. Lowering the cost of everyday essentials is a top priority for our government. Our beautiful province is vast, and whether you live in a large urban centre or a remote community, having a vehicle is a necessity for many of us. As someone who drives thousands of kilometres every month, I can speak from experience. Albertans shouldn't have to worry about whether they can afford to insure their vehicles. That's why today's announcement is so important. This is yet another way that our government is helping Albertans to save money and save their hard-earned dollars. And this is only part of our ongoing work to help lower the cost of everyday essentials for Albertans, whether it's auto insurance or your utility bill. We are breaking down economic barriers and helping Albertans earn more money to keep pace with the cost of living. We continue to have the lowest overall taxes in the country, and Alberta is leading the country in productivity, which means better jobs, bigger paychecks, and lower costs for Albertans. By taking action on auto insurance, our long-term goal is not only lower premiums and improved benefits for drivers, but also to deliver an effective long-term solution to a major affordability challenge Albertans have been facing. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks, Minister. We're now going to turn over to media, so it'll be one question, one follow-up. Please state your name and outlet for the record. We'll start here in the room, and then we're going to go to the phones. Lisa, go ahead.
Thanks. Lisa Johnson with the Canadian Press. I'm not sure who this would be for, but I was just hoping to get your reaction to something Mr. Nenshi said today. Obviously, you have mentioned several times that estimate, that $3 billion estimate in the startup costs for a public option or public delivery. But he noted that that cost is really dwarfed by what Albertans are paying in premiums. You know, if you times 3.4 Albertans by the average premium costs, it's like $6 or $7 billion. So his argument is that you're essentially just downloading that cost onto Albertans and drivers. And how would you respond to that?
Well, in a couple different ways, but I'd start with this. The $3 billion is one thing. The timeline is another. The report said 18 to 24 months. My department thinks it could be closer to 5 years, 4 to 5 years to set up and operate. That's if you can hire and find the people. It's going to take these private companies that already do this for a business 2 years to implement new systems. So imagine the risk that you're taking on to do both things at once, to try to deliver this from scratch, take every 3.4 million policies in the province and say, okay, now they're all going to be delivered by us on January of whatever year. You couldn't screw that up. I would say to whoever said that to you, I didn't recognize the name, but I would say that this makes sense to do the big thing first. This is where we're taking the biggest chunk of cost out of the system and ensuring that we have a reasonable timeline to get to rate reductions.
Thanks for that. And you also mentioned that this is bad drivers are still essentially being punished because they'll be forced to pay higher premiums than good drivers. But there's kind of a loophole here that punishes good drivers also, right, when they switch companies. So are you going to change the definition of good driver or somehow close that loophole? Well,
the good driver cap covers a lot of the drivers in the province. The insurance isn't magic. It's premiums taken in versus claims. So it can't cover everyone, right? There needs to be some relief. There's companies right now that are, for every dollar they take in, they're paying $1.40. The average rate pressure in the system is about 17%. Some companies are much higher than that. So it's just really basic math, money coming in versus money coming out. So we're trying to protect as many Albertans as we can. We're trying to show the companies a path to 2027 that will somewhat stem the bleeding. It certainly won't make them whole, but we hope that we can show them a light at the end of the tunnel and they consider staying in Alberta until 2027 to deliver this new product.
Thanks. Emmanuel?
Yep. But the loophole we're referring to is that basically for the rate cap, if you change your insurer in the next 3 years before 2027, my understanding is that the rate cap doesn't apply if you are new to the market, if you move from another province. So why not include people who are good drivers currently with whatever A company and want to switch with B company because it's a free market and they can choose whoever they want?
There's a few different parameters. If you change your vehicle, if you get out of a fully depreciated 1992 sedan and buy a $100,000 pickup truck, that'll obviously change your situation. Geographical changes. If you live where I do, out in the middle of nowhere, it's probably going to be rated a little different than if you live in a downtown metro center, and that just comes down to actuarial risk. That's what insurance companies do.
Follow-up is for Madam Premier. You've been a supporter and advocate of the free market and of personal responsibility for a while now. This reform basically on the free market side extends the government mandated cap on insurance companies' revenue, and on the personal responsibility side it's basically taking away in some form or another, in most cases, the right to sue, and so taking away the responsibility to own up to your actions if you're in a car accident. Why do that reform if it's contrary to your beliefs?
Well, I think there's a big difference between being a monopoly public government provider and setting the rules of the game that all private operators have to operate within. I mean, we have a private market for electricity, but we do a lot of regulation around it. We have rules for how you can participate in that. We have our government registry services that are provided privately. We were one of the first to decide that even though we have a monopoly on selling alcohol in the province, that we want to be able to have private retailers do it for us. So I think this is very consistent with the approach that we've taken in Alberta, that some functions fall to government to have more regulation than others. In this case, you don't have the option to say no. If you want to drive a car, we mandate that you have to have insurance. And because we mandate that, we have an obligation to make sure that it's provided at a rate that is affordable. The problem that I've seen in this market, and it became pretty clear with the slides that Minister Horner went through, is we have a system now where if you want to get compensated for your injury, you have no choice but to hire a lawyer because the compensation schedule is so low. You shouldn't have to wait to get your diagnosis and then have a mad dash to try to get well within 6 months. Otherwise, your benefits are cut off. So if you're in that circumstance, of course, you're going to go hire a lawyer. So what we want to do is make sure that with the care first approach, you'll get the care as long as you need it. If you find that your income is disrupted, we have a very generous schedule so that you can be fully compensated for that. It's I believe the highest in the country. We looked at the rates in Manitoba. We realized our salaries are higher here, so we had to make an adjustment. So those are the reasons. I think that we wanted to preserve private delivery as much as we could, but we're going to make sure that we set the rules of the game to make sure that everybody's operating under the same basis.
Jonathan, go ahead.
Hi, Jonathan Bradley, Western Standard. So you spoke about people who are involved, who receive catastrophic injuries from car accidents, receiving compensation for life from the insurance companies. How are you classifying catastrophic injury?
Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah. Some of those details are yet to be fully fleshed out, but one thing that was clear from the summit was that we were advised to take a benefit schedule from one of the existing care models. So we chose Manitoba's. We thought it was the most generous, and then we tweaked it on income support because, as the Premier said, we have higher incomes. So we'll be looking closely at the exact definitions used around the catastrophic injury and some of the other lines in there, but some of that has to be determined. And we're going to work with industry and the healthcare groups. There will be much more consultation with healthcare following this announcement.
Okay, my follow-up pertains to the timeline. So you said that if the system isn't going to be fully implemented until 2027, why do you think it's going to take that long to implement?
Just in working with industry, working with, the summit was a great place to start, but we've had a lot of one-on-ones with them after to find about, the software upgrades that would be needed to bring in this new product. Us ourselves, we're going to have to bring forward the legislation and then the regulation to enable this. So I know 2 years sounds like a long time, but it'll go by pretty fast.
Jack.
Jack Brow with the Canadian Press. I just did some napkin math for myself, so I'm hoping you guys can help me find this. So if I were to get a 7.5% increase in 1 year for what I pay for auto insurance, that'd be $200. So if I got another 7.5 the year following, like say 2026, maybe a little bit more than 200. And in the news release it estimates, or you guys are estimating that this new program will save us $400 a year. Like that napkin math ends up being zero for me. So what am I missing?
We have to get to 2027 first. I don't think people realize that when I say the pressure that's in the system, it's very real. Now, insurance companies won't like that when we have them capped at 7.5 for the next 2 years. By the time we get to January 1, 2027, they will be pricing a new product. They won't be rolling any of that pressure in previously. But yeah, it has to go up, and I think it points to the fact of how broken the system is, how much cost is in the system. If we have a way to take material cost out, if we don't, you can see what happens. If we don't raise the cap, we will lose the delivery mechanism, and we would then be forced to become a Crown agency that's also delivering and taking on all of that risk.
And then for a follow-up, I haven't had the time today to actually go through the embargo material, so I'm sorry if this is a stupid question. is there any guarantees that like insurance companies will offer like the new benefits like touted on the screen there as like a basic level, or is that going to be something that we're going to have to, like, drivers will have to pick, like, you know, certain options through insurance? Like right now I don't have collision insurance because I'm broke. So like, is that what it's expecting? Like if I want the best benefits ever, I would have to choose that option and pay for it, or is that going to be like the basic level insurance moving forward?
This will be the base level of benefits. There would be optionality in certain cases to go higher in some regard, but this is going to be the base model of benefits.
Okay, great. We have time for one more on the phone, then we're going to go, or in the room, then we're going to go to the phone. Sean, go ahead.
Hi, Sean Amado with City News. Sorry, just a question for you. What mechanisms exist here to make sure that savings are actually passed on to consumers? Are we going to need rate caps in the future to make sure that that happens?
Well, we're going to work with our industry working group over the next 2 years as they build these platforms. We also have some work to do ourselves, setting up some, dispute resolution appeal vehicles that you see in other care models. We need places to address any issue. So we'll do that work. But yes, we have all the tools to ensure. We regulate this. We have the auto insurance rate board, and we have all the levers to make sure it's complied to.
So people like Jack will be able to save some money, and you'll make sure of it by bringing in rate caps and doing those sorts of things.
Yeah, so what our expectation is that, it's unlikely that someone's auto insurance renews right on January 1st. So they would have paid for a different system likely in 2026, and we would expect rebate checks to going out in 2027 once the new model's in place.
Great, thanks. Operator, can you go to the first caller, please?
Thank you. Your first question comes from Rick Bell of Post Media. Your line is already open.
I hear a bit of an echo here, but I'll continue. I'll talk. I'd like to direct this to the Premier because 2 years ago I bugged the Premier, as you know, about this issue and have been bugging her ever since. So this afternoon I'm hearing from people who have some concerns. So I'm just going to lay them out very quickly. There's some people who don't like to pay 15% more over 2 years. There's people who don't trust that the insurance companies will deliver on the benefits without a hassle. They don't believe they will save $400 a year in premiums. And they don't believe insurance companies are hurting as much as your government is saying they're hurting. So how do you address those people who, at least in this first day, are it's not really they don't trust the government. It's that they don't necessarily trust the insurance companies, and they don't like paying that extra 15%.
Well, let me break down the 7.5% because we did allow the insurance companies to increase year over year by 3.7%. And so now that amount is going to be allowed to go up 5%. The extra 2.5% that'll apply to everyone is a premium to help offset the cost of natural disasters. I don't know that there's any other province who've experienced what we've experienced in the last 15 years. Southern Alberta floods, the Slave Lake fires, the Fort McMurray fires, and then of course the Jasper fires, the hailstorms, ice storms. It's really been nonstop. And it's one of the reasons you have insurance is that collectively we all share in the cost of that. And so we'll do what we can to mitigate on costs and mitigate on those kinds of issues to reduce future costs. But the insurance companies have shouldered an enormous amount of cost for that. And remember, whenever there's a natural disaster, it's not just homes that are destroyed; it's autos that are destroyed as well. So that's how we would break it down. And part of the reason is because we've already seen 2 insurance companies leave. We have, as Minister Horner mentioned, that the difference between premiums in and benefits paid out is a minimum of 17 cents difference versus 40% difference. And so if this continues on, then we end up with fewer and fewer insurers, which means the end result, if that plays out, is a public insurer. And so we have to try to find the right balance. We think that mitigating that increase the way we have is the reasonable way of going forward for the next 2 years till the new model comes in place. And then good drivers will see a significant decrease with the new model. The other approach that the minister has, lever he has at his disposal, is to monitor what their profits are. And if they are above, I believe, 6%, to order a rebate on the basis that they cannot go higher than that. So we already have that. He'll correct me if I'm mischaracterizing it, but it is 6%. So then when you look at guaranteed rates of return for any industry, that's on the low side. And so the minister is going to be looking at that very closely to make sure that if there are profits in the meantime, that they don't exceed that level. And look, I guess this is just it. The proof will be when the model comes forward. People will either get the rebate check in January or they won't. But I can tell you, we've told the insurers this is kind of the end of the line. Like, this is up to the industry to make this work. And if they can't make this work, there is only one more step to take. So because we would like to be able to build on the existing successful industry that we have, 4,500 people employed, multiple different providers, we have been given the assurance that this will bring rates down and deliver better care. And if not, there is that one last step of a public insurer if it doesn't end up working out. So the industry knows that. They have an interest in making it work. We have an interest in making it work for ratepayers. So we'll certainly know by 2027. We're going to work very hard to make sure it's implemented in that time. Did I answer all the points that you had? I thought you had 4, and I think I addressed 3.
Yeah, no, you did. That's why I'm going to ask the supplementary now, because you've segued perfectly into what I was going to ask, which is, I went back to my old home province of Manitoba in the summer, and they don't have any tort, they don't have any way to go to the courts, but I took in all my documents and my coverage, and I said, how much would it cost me with AutoPack, government insurance, and it was $717 a year cheaper than Alberta, and I have a 10-year-old Volkswagen, and I have no accidents and no tickets. So the question I want to ask you is, and by the way, as you know, as well as I do, conservative governments in Manitoba and Saskatchewan have not gotten rid of public auto insurance, including some real staunch conservatives like Bring Your Wall, for instance. So where are we at with, you said you warned the insurance companies about it. I know you don't want to go to public auto insurance. I realize that, and I know the minister doesn't either. But is that a real consequence? In other words, are you prepared to really go that far if they don't play ball?
Well, that was one of the options that we had on the table, and we did a consultation on it. So the industry should take us seriously, that we did look at it. We knew what the cost would be. We knew what the implementation schedule would be. But we have been given assurances that this will address the issues that we've been trying to address, which is getting a care-first approach, taking costs out of the system, and allowing for the insurance companies to see a pathway to viability, knowing that we also have the additional costs in our market of these periodic, very large payouts that have had to be paid by natural disasters. So the fact that we consulted on it should show that we're serious, but we want to give this option the benefit of the doubt of giving it a try, so that we don't end up having too long a delay before we can give relief. I don't think anybody wants us to wait 5 years to completely overhaul and dismantle the existing system. I think they'd like us to give it a good try in order to fix it. Did you have more you wanted to say?
I would maybe add one thing, Premier. Back to the survey that we undertook at the summit, Mr. Bell. It was clear. I think 83% of Albertans said that they appreciate the ability to have choice in who delivers their insurance and being able to shop around. So that was something else that we took from the survey. I guess I would also say we're very confident in this. We're confident that we will achieve these savings. To the previous question, we do have the levers within the system, and we are very confident. We've ran every actuarial model available to us, and we can watch in real time what people are paying in a very similar system, although delivered differently, right around us. So we're very confident this will work, but I do think it's clear, make it clear to everybody, we expect that industry will work with us. And as Premier said, there's only one other move left, I guess.
Yeah.
Operator, next caller, please.
Your next question comes from David Staples of Edmonton Journal. Your line is already open.
Premier, you've talked about this being kind of a first for Canada, but why reinvent the wheel here? Why not just go right now to a public system that is tried and true in other provinces to have much lower costs, significantly lower costs for consumers?
Well, look, I mean, we do transformation in government, and I just want you to think what it would take for us to cancel 3.4 million policies, draft 3.4 million policies, hire 4,500 brokers or agents or insurance adjusters, and get that in place in a reasonable period of time. I mean, that is, we want to make sure that we're not throwing out an entire system that people are comfortable with in order to be able to address these issues. Part of the reason other provinces have been able to do this is they made a decision earlier on, and they've been able to grow with their growing population to completely wipe out the system that we have right now, and then try to put something brand new in place with an untested group of employees and get it perfect and get a significant savings right off the hop. I mean, we have to be realistic about this. So we're going to watch and monitor and see how this goes. And if there are problems, then I guess we'll have to see if there's another option for us to move forward. But it just didn't seem that with the pressure that we're facing right now, telling Albertans, wait another 5 years and trust us that we'll get it right out of the gate, having never done this before. I just don't think that was a realistic position to take.
David, do you have a follow-up?
Premier, one of the benefits of a kind of no-fault, non-litigious system like we're modeling ourselves after in Manitoba, to some extent, just making it private, not public, is that there's prompter payouts, and there's far more generous payouts as well. But with the private companies running this thing, how are they going to be able to make such payments without hiking up their rates?
Well, I know that Minister Horner would have something to tell you, to say about that, but my understanding is that 20% of the cost of payouts right now is the cost of litigation. And so we believe that not only by making everyone have the same benefits payout across the board, that we'll be able to give those more generous payouts, but it will also allow us to deliver the rebates by taking out that additional 20% cost. I'll turn it over to Horner to see if he can add more.
Well, I just would say that's exactly right, Premier. I haven't seen any data that says otherwise. That's IBC's data, that 20% of the average premium cost is in litigation. So if you want to imagine this simply, if we remove that from the equation, provide better, more generous care and a rate reduction with the difference, that's really what we're talking about here. And it's immediate. And I don't think, just so everyone's aware, the income support is impressive, and that's to age 65. Right now, it's a system that the benefits are so poor, the system forces you to go to court to see what you can get. Imagine what happens if you don't have an at-fault driver to sue. Imagine if you're driving home and you swerve to miss a deer and you're hurt very badly and you don't have an at-fault driver to sue. We still see those people on the system. We're paying to help them anyways, whether it's in social support or health care spending. So it's very important to us that this is better care, far more generous care. We feel like we're going to take care of those people one way or another, get them taken care of more quickly with better benefits, and we'll give a rate reduction to boot. So it's simply a way to think about it.
Great. We have time for one more question on the phones. Operator, next caller, please.
Your next question comes from Jason Markusoff of CBC News. Your line is already open.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. Said that fun echo is gone. The Nous report, the same report that you guys have suggesting that there could be a $400 decrease in average premiums, also says they're would be 650 to 800 legal services jobs lost, in addition to hundreds of others in other sectors, going with this no-fault system. I mean, I think back to when the past NDP government phased out coal, there was a transition fund for affected communities. What do you say to the lawyers who are going to be worried about losing their jobs in 2 years? And will there be any sort of transition funding as you go forward with this for that sector that's going to take a serious hit?
Well, I know that transition's tough, and I know that we've seen this happen in other provinces, like BC when they made their change. We're one of few that are left. Fortunately, they're very educated and skilled lot that are able to adapt and work in different areas of the same sector. But I say that taking no comfort in this. Providing any kind of job uncertainty for folks that are here, Albertans contributing. That's why this decision, was so difficult. But I think we are minimizing those losses, and fortunately, they're skilled, educated folks.
Can you also comment on the amount of litigation that's still allowed? Because you said that's higher.
Yeah, that is something we should point out. Like, not only is this the highest level of benefits in the country, but something else that was important to us was this is the biggest window to court access of any care system in the country. So there is more tort still available in Alberta, and that should definitely provide that community with some comfort. They're still going to have some work to do.
Thank you. My follow-up is, if I look at the average premiums in recent years, 1636 last year, after 3.7, 7.5%, 7.5%, we're looking at about a $325 increase over the last 3 years of rates that your government is allowing. And then we're talking about a $400 rate, which isn't guaranteed. What sort of guarantees will you give to Albertans that the loss of right to sue in almost every case is worth no necessary guarantee that there will be a premium loss at the end of the day?
Well, I don't want to confuse things here. Like, we regulate this industry, but it isn't magic, Jason. Like, it's premiums versus claims and real costs. So we have provisions on profit through the rate board. We've brought in short-term caps, which make life more affordable to Albertans, but if they don't represent the true costs, then that won't be a delivery mechanism for very long. So I guess what I'm saying is not what do you expect, but what do you think the tools are that we have to do more than we are? And I would ask, what is the alternative? I know that sounds bad to people, but imagine a 17% increase. The hailstorm in Calgary was $1 billion in auto. It was $2.8 billion in total property, $1 billion in auto. The vehicles, we talked about the income level in Alberta, also on average drive nicer vehicles. The hailstorm in Calgary hit one of the parking lots in the airport. It's probably the most expensive airport you could hit with a hailstorm outside of Dubai. So these costs are real, and we share them. They're aggregated. So we're going to tell those Albertans we're doing everything we can. We're stemming the bleeding of the insurance companies so they can provide this, because we wouldn't be able to build one in time, even if we wanted to. And we're going to get to a model, and the reason that we're confident in it is because we've done work for a year and a half. We've ran every piece of actuarial analysis, and we have the levers of the rate board to ensure that they comply.
Okay, thanks everyone. That concludes our press conference today.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.